What is up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the Numbers. This is my betting breakdown video for UFC Vegas 64. We have Marina Rodriguez going against Amanda Lemos.
I need all the wins, yeah. Harder than all that is. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out.
And we are back for another betting breakdown video. This week breaking down UFC Vegas 64. In my opinion, one of the sketchiest cards of the year, and I thought last week was sketchy, came out with a winning night, kept it short and sweet last week. Last week was wild. I kind of expect the same thing here, keeping it short and sweet. I'm only betting on 4 of the, I think 11, 12 fights on the card, so I'm keeping it light. A lot of sketchy fights. We had 5 fighters miss weight today, so yeah, just a sketchy card in general, a card that I do not want to be overexposed to. Of course, we have UFC 281 next week. A lot more, higher level fights on that card. So definitely looking forward to that. But yeah, we're talking about UFC Vegas 64. Should be a fun card, I'd say. Can't wait to talk about it with you guys. Before we get started, if you guys can please leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you do want a further, more in-depth breakdown on why I like which fighter, why I'm picking what, why I'm betting what, I did post a full card breakdown and prediction video earlier in the week. Go check that out. Also did a live stream on Friday as well. And I'll be going live once more 1 hour prior to the prelims, 3 o'clock p.m. Eastern time for best bet, giving the best bet for each and every fight on the card. But yeah, I say we get into it, and yeah, I know people don't like to hear it. People don't like to hear me saying, pass, I'm not betting on this fight, but I mean, bankroll management's key, and do you really want to go out there and put your hard-earned money on Tamires Vidal going against Ramona Pascual? And it looks like by the judge of it, Pascual's the dog of the week, and I totally get it. If you're going to bet this fight, it has to be on the Pascual side. It's a clear dog or pass situation. I mean, there's just no reason for Vidal to be the favorite here, and the line is closed in a lot. I do expect this to be around a pick'em by the time the fight starts, and I could have got Pascual around that plus 125, plus 130 range, but I mean, I just really don't want to bet on this fight. I mean, you go and watch Vidal, I just did not see anything I liked out of her. I mean, she's a brown belt in BJJ, a couple submission wins. Her wrestling's not good. Her striking's not good. Her takedown defense isn't good. She hasn't fought anybody good. And when she did fight somebody good, she lost. And Eileen Perez, she ended up getting the disqualification win. It's just not good. And then you go and watch, Ramona Pascual, and you're like, man, not much better. So these are fights I just don't bet on anymore. And I've had a lot of success not betting on fights like these. So yeah, this is a pass. I mean, if you want to bet it, take the dog. But you will not catch me betting on this fight. I mean, this is the 1-800-gambler fight of the year by far. And there's honestly, there's a fight down the card that's even worse in terms of I will not have money on that fight. So yeah, this is sketchy. Give me Pascual, but not betting it. Probably not even watching it, to be honest. Jake Hadley going against Carlos Condelaria. A much better fight here. I like this fight. Condelaria was one of the 5 fighters that missed weight. Oh, by the way, Pascual missed weight as well. So another reason where I don't know if you want to bet the fight, but yeah, Condelaria did miss weight. Did not look the best on the scales, but he didn't look terrible. I like Hadley here, minus 250. I don't know if I want to trust him at that price tag. He was a pretty big favorite in his last fight against Alon Nascimento, so I'm not. I mean, it would be the decision prop if anything. I saw it. I think it was on DraftKings at plus 105, plus 110, something like that. I guess that would be the look, but Condelaria missing weight. Hadley is dangerous. I mean, another fight I just don't really have a great read on. I think Hadley wins. Condelaria has some of the worst takedown defense you'll ever see. I think this is a tailor-made matchup for one Jake Hadley. He should win this fight, but I don't know if I want to lay minus 250 on him. I mean, maybe a parlay piece if anything, but it's another fight I will not be betting on. The pick is Hadley. Hadley as a parlay piece is pretty much all I do. That decision prop is tempting, but seeing Condelaria on the scales kind of sways me off of that a little bit. Johnny Munoz Jr. going against Ludovic Shalinian, another fight where I like the favorite, but I do not like the line. Minus 250 on Johnny Munoz Jr. A prop that kind of stuck out was the sub prop at plus 300. On the feet, I don't think either of these guys are that great. Shalinian has that wrestling background. If Shalinian does take this fight down to the mat, I think he's going to be in some serious trouble. Munoz is very dangerous on the mat, whether he's on top, off of his back, legit black belt in BJJ. I think this fight does hit the mat, and I am picking Munoz to win by submission. That's really the only way I'd bet it would be that submission prop around plus 300, but I do not have a bet on this fight as well. But yeah, the pick's Munoz by sub. That Munoz by sub prop, little sprinkle would be the only way I'd look, if anything. Next, we have Polyana Viana going against Jin Yu Fry. Yeah, I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of really either fighter here, especially Jin Yu Fry. I don't think she's that great. She's 38 years old, no volume, just I'm not sure what she's great. I mean, she's a good technical striker, but, the volume really concerns me. She's been submitted by Kay Hansen before. But then you have Polyana Viana, who's just not a minute winner. Polyana Viana has a 100% finish rate. She's never won a decision. That's because she does not win minutes. I mean, she's flopping to her back. She's pulling guard. She's losing minutes on the feet. She's losing minutes off of her back. Do you really want to lay minus 145 on a fighter that cannot win minutes and win decisions? I do not. If I was to play this fight, it would be Polyana Viana inside the distance, Polyana Viana by sub, which is around plus 300. I saw the Polyana Viana first round sub prop at plus 900. The majority of her submission wins do come in the first round. So I would kind of look at it that way. But again, it's a fight where I just don't really want to bet on it. I think it's another sketchy fight. Jinyu Fry has all the tools to win this fight. Her takedown defense is very good. She's very strong. I just don't trust her volume. And I do think this fight hits the mat. So I'll take Polyana Viana to win by sub. Again, the sub prop as a sprinkle, if anything. But 4 fights in a row where I'm not betting on this fight. But luckily, I do have 4 bets on these next 4 fights. So let's get into these. Mario Batista going against Benito Lopez. Finally have some action here. I got Mario Batista earlier in the week. He was my very first bet of the card. I have 2.5 units on him at minus 225. Bet him on Sunday. And, once people started doing the research, money started coming in on Batista. He's a very popular play this week, very popular parlay piece, and I completely get why. This is one that kind of stuck out to me last week when I was kind of going through the card, putting all my stats in. I saw Benito Lopez there, and I'm like, man, Lopez has not fought in like 3 years, and sure enough, Lopez has not fought in over 3 years. The last time he fought, I remember it because I was on a cruise actually watching the fight on the cruise, and that was a long, long time ago. So, yeah, I'm not sure what Benito Lopez has been up to. Obviously, he got his real estate license. He's a realtor now. I don't think he's at Team Alpha Male, which is a big red flag to me. It doesn't look like he's there. The last picture of him at Team Alpha Male was over 3 years ago, so I don't believe he's there. I don't know what he's been doing. He came in, he missed weight. I think he missed weight, he was the worst weight miss on the entire card. And honestly, I didn't expect him to make weight. I didn't think he looked to be in the best shape, judging by his Instagram, and he missed weight, sure enough. I don't know what's going on here. It's a sketchy fight. It's a fight that probably, honestly, should not be bet on because there are question marks about Benito Lopez. Has he gotten better? Has he gotten worse? Has he taken this serious? But, narrative aside, I do like Batista to win this fight stylistically. I think Batista has the advantage really anywhere the fight goes. On the feet, as the fight gets extended, it goes on, especially considering Lopez is on that layoff, did not look to be in the best shape, did miss weight. I think as the fight goes on, that heavily favors Batista, who can go with 3 hard rounds and no problem. I think Batista has all the grappling upside in this fight. Benito Lopez has not even attempted a takedown. Mario Batista now a brown belt in BJJ, completing takedowns at over a 60% clip. There's a reason why money's been coming in on Mario Batista all week, but there's just that uncertainty of Benito Lopez that would be the only thing that kind of scares me. But again, I think all these things are, trending towards, Mario Batista getting the win here. I mean, I don't like these things on the Benito Lopez side. So I did put 2.5 units on Mario Batista, minus 225. The line has obviously moved a lot. If you can still get him, better than minus 300, I think it's worth a look. I don't mind him as a parlay piece as well. Seems to be a very popular parlay piece also. And then I also took a shot on the fight doesn't go to decision. I have a half a unit on it at minus 105. I was kind of waiting for weigh-ins to see what Benito Lopez looked like. If he looked to be in good shape and looking good, I was not going to play this. But since he did miss weight, I do like that fight doesn't go to decision even more because I think Benito Lopez, if he's to win this fight, I think it will be by first round knockout. And if Mario Batista wins this fight, yeah, it could be a decision, but I could also see it being a knockout. I could see it being a submission. Benito Lopez has been finished in all of his losses. And same thing, Mario Batista has actually been finished in all of his losses. Neither guy has ever lost a decision. I expect this to be a fun and exciting fight. I expect it to be a war. And I think down the stretch, Mario Batista takes over, breaks Benito Lopez, and probably submits him in that second or third round. So I like the fight doesn't go. Half a unit on at minus 105, but my biggest bet on the card is that Mario Batista money line, minus 225, 2.5 units, beat the line by a lot. We'll see what happens. All right, next we have my favorite fight in the card. We have Shalion Nerd and Bekke going against... No, we don't. We have Miranda Maverick going against Shanna Young. And I do have a bet here, and I'm kind of frustrated with myself here. I probably should have added more onto this. So I bet the fight doesn't go to decision at plus 125 for a half a unit. Got in very early here. And the reason I bet that because the fight doesn't go is like plus 125, and Maverick inside the distance was like plus 140. So I ended up just going with the fight doesn't go to decision. There wasn't much of a difference. I was kind of thinking about maybe betting both, like putting a half unit on the fight doesn't go and then putting a half unit on Maverick to win inside the distance. Kind of thought about it for, an hour or so. Went to go back and play Maverick inside the distance, and the line got smashed from like plus 140 to like plus 120, something like that. So I ended up passing, and even now, I'm kind of tempted on Maverick inside the distance, like adding another half unit on Maverick inside the distance, because it's still around like even money. I think it's like minus 105 for Miranda Maverick to win inside the distance. She's literally like minus 700 on the money line to win. But yeah, I wish I would have just added on at that point. And I could have even done it throughout the week, but, Shanny Young, she missed a weight, another weight miss where I wasn't too shocked. Shanny Young did have to pull out of the fight last time because she had weight cutting issues, but she went and actually continued to cut weight. She cut off a lot of her hair, and she was able to make the weight, which, she's not going to lose any money, but, how is that going to affect her performance going back and, cutting weight, doing all that again, right? So I do like Maverick to win here. I like her to win inside the distance. I think it can be in the first or second round. We saw what happened in the first fight, and you can make the argument that, Shanny Young has improved, and I would agree with that, but you could also, it's not an argument. Miranda Maverick has improved leaps and bounds since their first fight. So I like Maverick to get this done inside the distance. I have a half unit on that fight, doesn't go to decision, plus 125. The line's been completely smashed all week. It's probably one of the more popular plays, and rightfully so. It just makes no sense. So if you can still get Miranda Maverick, though, at like even money, I think that's a great look, and that is even something I'm tempted to maybe add on a little bit. But yeah, right now, just a half unit on that fight doesn't go to decision for me. All right, this is my most exposed fight of the card in terms of numbers of bets. We have Shalion Nurdenbeke going against Derek Minner. So I'll talk about the bets I have. So the first and foremost, I think the best bet on this fight is that under 2.5 rounds. Even that fight doesn't go to decision. So I put 0.75 units on that on the under 2.5 rounds, and I got that at minus 125. And the reason I did that instead of the fight doesn't go, because at the time they had the fight doesn't go to decision on Bet Online. It was like minus 230. So the fight doesn't go is like minus 230. And then the under was only like minus 125. So I took the minus 125. Now, money's actually been pouring in on the fight goes to decision. And now you can get the fight doesn't go to decision on some books at I see minus 140. So if you can get that minus 140, I see a minus 150 on FanDuel, I would take that. But yeah, I'm on the under 2.5 rounds. Both these guys are killer be killed. Derek Minner especially. Derek Minner, an 89% finish rate. He's been finished 11 times. 8 by submission. Shalion Nurdenbeke, a finisher in his own right, at least outside the UFC. Inside the UFC, we'll talk about it, not really a finisher, but outside the UFC, a ton of finishes. Nurdenbeke had been finished in 8 out of 10 losses. That's 80%. I think a finish here is pretty likely. So that's my first bet. 0.75 units on the under 2.5 rounds at minus 125. That line is still there. Next, I have the Derek Minner scorecards equals no action. The finish only for Derek Minner, half a unit, plus 150. That's actually plus 160 on FanDuel Sportsbook. And the reason being is, this one, I think Derek Minner has a higher chance to finish this fight than Shalion. The reason being is, Shalion has not looked to finish anybody in the UFC thus far, including one, Sean Soriano, who's been finished a ton by sub. He has 0 submission attempts in the UFC. He's just looking to lay and pray, and he says he's going to go out there and knock out Minner. Good luck, because Shalion striking is not good at all. I guess he could TKO him if Minner's tired, but Shalion Nurdenbeke is just content to go out there and win minutes. And my reasoning is, if he's taking down Derek Minner is going to get a ton of opportunities to get that submission. I've seen Nurdenbeke submitted a ton of times, 6 times to be exact, and it's concerning because he's getting submitted by some of the most questionable competition we ever see on the Chinese regional scene. I saw him get submitted by an 0-1 guy. Whereas Derek Minner, the guy has 22, 23 submissions on his record, including submission wins against, Terrence McKinney, guys like that. So I think Minner is very live for a finish here. If Nurdenbeke does not want to take this fight down to the mat, I think Minner can mix in a takedown or two and get the fight down to the mat himself. But I do expect this fight to hit the mat, and when it does, Minner is going to have a lot of opportunities, whereas Nurdenbeke, And that's the kind of the concern with the under 2.5 and the fight doesn't go. That's why I did not go too heavy, is because I don't know if Nurmagomedov is going to go out there and get a finish. So I am more on the Minner side myself. I have a half a unit on that Minner finish only, plus 150. If the fight goes to decision, that bet is voided. If Minner wins inside the distance, that bet hits. And if Nurmagomedov wins inside the distance, that bet loses. And then I also have a quarter unit on Derek Minner to win by first round submission at plus 950. Kind of upset I missed the plus 1,000 opener there, which is ridiculous. Derek Minner literally has 20 first round submissions. 20 of them. So I think if he wins, that's how he wins, and it's plus 950. That line is still there, which is just wild to me. So those are the 3 bets I have. I have the under. Most importantly, I think the under is the way to go. I think Derek Minner early, and if Minner does fall off a cliff, then Nurmagomedov is live for that finish. And then I also don't mind the Derek Minner finish only. I think if there is a finish, I think it's more likely than plus 150 there that Minner gets to finish. And then I don't mind the quarter unit sprinkle on that Derek Minner first round submission as well. So very heavily exposed to this fight here. All right, next we have Grant Dawson going against Mark Madsen. And I think this is the last of the weight missers. And Grant Dawson did miss weight. He is coming in here on short notice as well. So not the best look in the world there. And yeah, I took the shot on Mark Madsen here. I think this fight's going to play out a lot closer than the line does indicate. On top of that, I mean, you got to factor in, Dawson is coming in here on short notice. We have seen Dawson slow down. Whereas Mark Madsen, had a full camp. He should be ready to go, training at Fight Ready. And, nobody's really talking about the improvements Mark Madsen has made at Fight Ready. I mean, his striking looks much, much better. His cardio looks much, much, much better. And just how I see this fight kind of playing out, I mean, is Dawson going to go out there and, take down an Olympic caliber wrestler and Mark Madsen take his back and choke him out in the first round? I just don't know if I see that. I think the wrestling might negate each other, and if it does, I know some people don't agree with this, but I think Mark Madsen right now is the better striker. I've seen Mark Madsen go out there and win fights with his striking, whereas I can't find one fight where Grant Dawson went out there and outstruck somebody across 15 minutes. Dawson is looking to get the fight down to the mat. Dawson on the feet is very hittable, 45% striking defense. And, Dawson, again, missing weight, coming in on short notice. What is Dawson going to look like as the fight goes on? Is he going to be able to hold up for 15 rounds in a fight I expect to play out at a very high pace? Whereas Madsen, he has slowed down before, but like I said, since moving to Fight Ready, he has looked much, much better. So I'm taking the dog shot here on Madsen. The one thing that scares the crap out of me is the grappling. I think Dawson is another level on the mat against Madsen here when it comes to the grappling. Dawson, brown belt and BJJ, Madsen, a white belt. If Dawson is able to get this fight down to the mat, I think he subs him potentially. If you're on Dawson, I don't know why you're not taking that Dawson submission prop at plus 410. Like, even that's something I was considering, that sub prop. But seeing Dawson miss weight, being that he's coming in on short notice, I don't know if I like that as much, but yeah, if you like Dawson, that sub prop at plus 410 is wild. But yeah, I'm on the Mark Madsen side, half a unit, plus 195. We'll see what happens, hoping he can keep this on the feet. Tagir Ulanbekov going against Nate Maness. I was kind of looking at like a Tagir Ulanbekov, like a decision-only type thing, but, bookies are all over it. It's minus 400, 500, something like that. I like Ulanbekov here, but I said to myself, I'm not betting Nate Maness fights ever again. I'm like 0 for 4 in terms of betting his fights. I had a bet on Gravely. Gravely knocks him out. The dude comes back to life in the second round, gets the finish. I had a bet on Luke Sanders. Luke Sanders is beating him up for a round and a half. Luke Sanders falls off a cliff, gets knocked down and submitted. I had a bet on the under 2.5 in the last fight against Umar Nurmagomedov. He's able to survive against Umar Nurmagomedov. I'm just done betting on this guy's fights. But I think Tagir wins. I think it's a great matchup for Tagir. Nate Maness made weight for the first time at 125 pounds. He did not look good at all. I'd imagine that affects his performance because, man, he looked bad, but shout to him, he made the weight. But I don't know how that's going to affect him there. So yeah, I like Tagir. I would say Tagir by decision, but the weight cut kind of sketches me out for that one. Not betting this fight, but it would be Tagir if anything. Chase Sherman, Josh Parisian. Yeah, I'm not. This is horrible. I mean, flip a coin. If you're laying chalk on Chase Sherman, good luck. I mean, he's the better striker here, but if Parisian falls on top of him, like, the fight's going to be over shortly after. I mean, I could care less about this fight. I mean, I would never bet on this fight in my life. Maybe the over 1.5, if anything, but even that would mean you'd have to put money on this fight. By the looks of it, it looks like Chase Sherman and Romano Pasquale are like one of the most popular plays of the week, and I'm just like, how how can you guys bet on this fight, these fights? I mean, just sketchy, man. I mean, these are the types of fights that take years off your life. So I would not bet this fight, and I would definitely not lay chalk on Chase Sherman. Could he win? I guess, but my gosh. And I can't believe this is on the main card, by the way. I'm not even thinking about betting this fight. Neil Magny, Daniel Rodriguez, kind of tempted on a dog shot here on D-Rod. He looked to be in good shape. But I feel like it's going to be a close fight. So I think, and then on top of that, it's going to be a close fight. It's probably going to go to decision. The judges, man, have got me like the last 2 weeks. So that kind of scares me. But it would be a D-Rod or pass for me. I think D-Rod's the better striker. I love the volume. I don't think Magny's going to be able to hold D-Rod against the cage. I don't think he's going to be able to take him down. I like D-Rod to kind of outstrike Magny across 3 rounds. But yeah, it's going to be close. It's going to be greasy. And the judges are completely blind. You're probably going to have to trust them to get it right. And it's a hard thing to do nowadays. So give me D-Rod to win, but not betting this one. All right, and then finally, main event, Rodriguez-Lemos. Yeah, there was a little bit flight situation with Lemos and Viana and Vidal. They were kind of late to Vegas, and all 3 of them made weight, and Lemos looked good. This is a fight where I wanted to go with the violence angle, but they're all over it and more. I was hoping for plus money at least on the fight doesn't go to decision. It's sitting at minus 135. I'm okay on that. If I was to play anything, it probably would be that, but I just don't like the price tag there. I mean, I think we should be getting a much better price. But yeah, Lemos has never been to the 4th round, to the 5th round. I think it's kind of Lemos early, Rodriguez late type situation. I don't mind some Rodriguez inside the distance. I don't mind some Rodriguez 3, 4, 5 round sprinkles. I don't mind the Rodriguez 4, 5 decision prop at like plus 110. But I do not have a bet on this fight. Gonna sit back and watch. But if I was to bet on it, those are kind of the ways I'd look. The Rodriguez late round props. The fight doesn't go as a whole, but just nothing really sticking out. So just a quick recap, my biggest bet of the night is on Mario Batista, 2.5 units, minus 225. Also, the fight doesn't go to decision, half a unit, minus 105. I have Miranda Maverick, Shanny Young, fight doesn't go to decision, half a unit, plus 125. The line's obviously moved a ton. I would look at the Maverick inside the distance currently, which is around even money, and I'm kind of tempted to add on there. I have 3 bets on the Minner Shalian fight. I have the Minner scorecards equals no action, half a unit plus 150. That's plus 160 on FanDuel. I have 0.75 units on the under 2.5 rounds, minus 125. And then I have Derek Minner wins by first round submission, quarter unit, plus 950. And I also have a half unit shot on Mark Matheson. So yeah, I'm only betting on 4 of these fights. Sketchy card, keeping it light, just like last week. Short and sweet, and hoping to come out with a win. So if you guys enjoyed the content, leave a like on the way out, subscribe to the channel, and best of luck for UFC Vegas 64. See you guys.